Public power now! Public power now! Public power now!
And now we have a petition. You know, I'm a little concerned that if PG&E is successfully sued for criminal negligence, all they'll do is raise our rates to cover it. That's why we need these people to be on felony charges. We need to put these PG&E executives in prison. We need to put them on trial because that will be the kind of warning that corporate America will notice.
So we are here on this sad anniversary, and 1 year ago a neighborhood was destroyed. Is it better? Oh, okay. So 1 year ago a neighborhood was destroyed, and what has happened in that year since? We've had a company, PG&E, resisting the regulators, refusing to give documentation, denying culpability, asking the ratepayers to fund the repair of a broken system. But we've also had the federal government give an astounding report of what this company has done. The federal government has shown that the regulation here that PG&E is not abiding by is a weak regulation. The federal government says that the regulators here in California are not strong enough, and yet PG&E can't abide by them. The question that I think we in San Francisco should ask, we who are so close to San Bruno, we should ask, where are the pipelines in San Francisco? We have these decrepit, unsafe pipelines that were put in the 1950s, and the federal government said that when they were put in the 1950s, they were defective at that time, and PG&E knew it. So this is not a new phenomena that we have here. But we have these pipelines in San Francisco, and we don't know where they are. PG&E won't tell us where they are. We have a city with huge apartment buildings. We have lots of schools. We have universities. We don't know where these pipelines are. We can't make appropriate safety measures and plans for them. The fire department doesn't know. The city government has asked for them, and PG&E just doesn't respond. Well, they owe that to us a year after. We deserve to know where these pipelines are, what conditions they are, and when they're going to be replaced. And those are the answers that we need to get from PG&E now.
Because that's how far they've gone. They are a manifestation of the incredible evil and greed in our society. Thank you so much, John, for talking. And now we have somebody who comes from very close to the community that was actually afflicted. Pat Gray, who is a longtime San Bruno activist and a member of the Peace and Freedom Party. Pat has come here from that community to speak for that community that has been so traumatized by the incredible malfeasance of the executives of PG&E and the incredible laxity of the oversight of the California government. Pat Gray.
Who don't even know the location of the pipeline, or more importantly, how to turn it off. When the pipeline blew in San Bruno, it kept spewing up exploding gas for 95 minutes until a retired employee who lived in Pacifica came and turned off the gas. PG&E is now installing plastic pipelines in dwellings to supply natural gas. These pipes are much less labor-intensive to install, but the safety of these pipes is in question. PG&E knew about the faulty pipe in San Bruno in 1988. For 22 years, they did nothing but increase the rates to repair the line, but did no repair. As a direct result of this criminal negligence, 8 people died and 38 homes were destroyed. The National Transportation Safety Board requests that emergency responders must have information about the location, size, and types of pipes that transfers their communities. But the San Bruno Fire Department did not even know there was a pipe in the Crestmore neighborhood. And nor did they know the location of any shutoff valve. In 1970, after many problems with gas pipelines nationwide, new regulations were written for better safety standard. PG&E spent $100 million since 2006 to lobby aggressively and successfully against several key safety proposals. The 1970 regulations listed 3 methods to check the safety of lines. 1, the very costly water test. 2, the use of a smart P, an electronic device to be put through the pipes to check for potential problems. But these devices may only be used on straight pipes. In the Bay Area, we have geography that does not allow many straight pipes. They have to go up, over, and around the hills. The third choice is direct assessment by the industry. That is, the profit-driven industry shall make assessments as to the safety. PG&E lobbying was also successful in grandfathering the regulation of old pipes by allowing them to continue as long as the company would do some pressure testing on a regular schedule to show that the pipes would not explode. PG&E spiked the pressure on the San Bruno pipeline to over what it was designed to withstand just days before the pipe blew. PG&E workers were near the point where the explosion happened 2 days prior to the explosion because neighbors were complaining. Residents complained of smelling gas.
You got to hold these.
This grandfathering allowed PG&E to do these pressure hikes in order not to upgrade the line. The result of this was the death of 8 people in San Bruno. These very weak regulations are enforced by the PUC, which is staffed with people, many of whom had been PG&E executives. They have a very close association with PG&E, and they trust that the corporation will do a good job. There was never any inspection of the pipelines that PG&E said were seamless when they were not. We don't need trust, we need real regulation. Major Rowan of San Bruno says, we must find out what happened to prevent it from happening again. The city attorney of San Francisco sent letters to the PUC and the U.S. Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Commission as the first step to suing Pacific Gas and Electricity for criminal negligence. He says, quote, the public is at risk because the mandate of federal laws have not been followed by PG&E or enforced by regulators, end quote. Such a lawsuit is needed to protect the people of our state. PG&E lawyers state that the company is not responsible, quote, because unforeseeable intervening and or superseding acts of persons and entities intervenes other than PG&E. They have even stated that the residents of the area may be at fault, but they don't say how. PG&E lawyers have also said, quote, these transmission pipes were consistent with available technological, scientific, and industrial regulations, unquote. Statements like this require a trial to determine if they are true. Were the regulations followed, and are PG&E reports factual, or is PG&E criminally responsible for the death of those 8 people? Are we all in danger of a repeat of those events of over a year ago? There's also the matter of who will pay for the rebuilding of the homes and the repair of the substandard pipelines. Shall the corporation pay for the repairs of the pipelines, or shall customers pay through higher rates? These same pipes put down in the 1950s are all over the Bay Area. We need to know where the pipelines are and make it clear that PG&E must replace the old pipes at their expense. The custom of just raising the rates on the customers is not just while the corporation is making profits. Some years ago, the city of San Francisco had a ballot measure for the city to take over the electrical system in San Francisco from PG&E. PG&E spent a lot of money against this proposition, and their employees took down posters in favor. It was this election when the ballot boxes somehow fell off the pier at Fort Mason before being counted and were found floating on Stinson Beach a few days later. The ballot boxes were from the Mission District, which was strongly in favor of having a real public utility in PG&E. These votes were not counted, and the measure lost. This disaster in San Bruno should be the last straw for private, for-profit control of our utilities. San Francisco can follow the lead of Sacramento and East Bay and have a real public utility to serve the people people of the area efficiently and at lower cost. The people who lost their homes due to PG&E's greed are now rebuilding their homes with funds from their own homeowners insurance. The corporation that caused the disaster must be made responsible to pay the cost of rebuilding and to comfort the people who lost family members.
One of the original robber barons from the 1870s. And it was such an outcry that there was nationwide, there was demand for public power. And it got to be a very strong political movement. So the ruling class and PG&E came up with the Public Utilities Commission instead of having public power. From the time it was born, the PUC became the Protect Utilities Commission. And that's their role ever since. It was a diversion, an illusion of public power through the PUC to divert the movement. And it was organized by both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, going back to that time. And since 1970, there has been a policy throughout this land of deferred maintenance. And in 1995, the Democrats and Republicans unanimously passed deregulation laws allowing corporations to police themselves. So the deferred maintenance went wild. They knew the dangers of not repairing the pipelines. Legally, that's wanton disregard for human life, criminally punishable for murder.
Yes.
This corporation is responsible for the murders at San Bruno. One of the first acts of deregulation was PG&E Company to form PG&E Corporation as its parent organization. So the first thing they did under the Enron energy crisis, PG&E and all the other energy trusts fixed prices, fixed gas prices, fixed energy prices. And PG&E Corporation charged those higher prices to PG&E Company. So you had PG&E Company going debt to its parent corporation, which it formed. Then the PUC, in its magnanimity, said that we can't allow this company to go bankrupt. So you, the users of electricity, will get a surcharge to pay the debt that PG&E Company owes in reality to itself. They profited from the price fixing not once, but not twice, but 3 times really. And what you have here is an erection from the robber barons for you. Now, the Chronicle reports, we're going to have to pay for all the fixing of the underground pipes, which, because PG&E, in its quest for profits, didn't spend money on maintenance. It spent money on corporate salaries and everything else. And so they all agree, we'll have to pay for all the PG&E companies fixing the pipes they should have cleaned up. So we're screwed again. The only solution is to cut the charade. Don't go to the PUC, go to the streets. Demand public power now, and we're not going to be diverted by a PUC.
Thank you.
And the compensation for PG&E will take a little bit of the debt that they owe us as compensation, and will demand payback of the rest. But then with public control, we can enforce humanity's laws of protecting our rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and put it under workers and consumer control, the majority control, not the rich minority that controls 80% of the wealth and screws the rest of the people. Thank you.
Now.
My name is Mark Loy. I'm taking my time off of work right now to participate in this demonstration in support of the victims of PG&E's PG&E's gas explosion in San Bruno. And as a private citizen, so even though I work at the PUC, I'm doing this on my own time and I'm representing myself. And I'm also a member, a job steward for SCIU Local 1000.
So what does this mean to you, this day, this anniversary, 1 year anniversary?
Well, the thing that's really frightening to me is now it looks as if public safety and the public are just another cost of service, and that this is going to turn into another PR event rather than a real chance to reform and to get back to the basics of what it means to provide an essential public service to people, not for a profit, but because people need it and they should not be victimized by profiteers.
Utility agency, what needs to be done to really make sure that there's proper oversight?
Okay, I'm a consumer advocate. I work at an independent state agency it's located at the California Public Utilities Commission. I'm sorry, what was your question?
What would have to be done to make sure that there is proper oversight? And you say that you're for public power. How would public power change the dynamic of safety?
Okay, let's need to actually regulate. They need to set clear priorities that are based on established industry standards, and they need to enforce them. What has happened is that we've elected officials who have appointed people to the California Public Utilities Commission who do not believe in regulation, and they believe in a collaboratory framework where they work everything out in a culture of collaboration. And so rather than strictly enforcing things, they're always trying to work things through with their subject of their regulation. And that clearly has to change, has to be completely reformed. We have to have new commissioners appointed, like the two most recent ones, Florio and I can't remember the telecom commissioner's name. But anyway, they actually have backgrounds in this, and they do believe and understand and comprehend regulation as opposed to just believing in profits in the market. Now, as far as public power goes, public power is an alternative to state regulation, and that because utilities, for very structural and marketing reasons, they're a monopoly. Because of their largesse, they have certain political and social advantages. They're called network economies, and they can spend 24 hours 7 on ratepayers' dime pushing forth their agenda, and so they dominate state regulation. So you either have to reform that in order to democratize state regulation, otherwise we get what we have now, which is a total capitulation and collapse, and it's dominated by corporate interest and profits. Now, municipal power, on the other hand, comes from the ground up. It has to come from the citizens and from voters, and they have to vote to take over the poles and wires after they've bought out the incumbent utility or they've established their own utility.
Shouldn't they be expropriated because of criminal activity?
You're kind of getting ahead of me here, but anyway, so it's an alternative, and instead of democratizing the process through hearings as we have at the Public Utilities Commission, which unfortunately are dominated by corporate interests, you would have it democratized at the local level, you know, in town hall meetings and votes and, you know, direct election of officials. And so, anyway, so it's an alternative. And if we had public power here, then the people who would run the municipal utility would be directly accountable to the voters. That's not what we have at the PUC, at the California Public Utilities Commission. As far as San Francisco's municipal utility, it's basically a front for PG&E. It's completely dominated by interests represented by PG&E and also the NRDC. For some reason, they don't want public power in San Francisco.
Well, why is the IBEW 1245 and the union union's opposed to public power?
You can consider it like a company union. They fight so hard against public power, and then they get workforce reductions and bad contracts in return. And I think they have to reevaluate really, where their interests lie, but that's up to them.
Are you surprised that whistleblowers who are members of IBEW 1245 have been retaliated against for making complaints about health and safety of the lines and the lack of trained people to repair the lines?
Well, I just know of incidences that have happened. I don't know how, whether it's how endemic it is. It looks like the San Bruno blast and some of the other problems that we've had at Rough and Ready and Rancho Cordova, and then the recent condominium explosion, would seem to indicate that the unions are part of the problem. That they're not keeping the records, they're not blowing the whistle on when records are not accurate. And then we get these reports of people getting retaliated against. That's extremely disturbing. And it should not be tolerated. I mean, you can't tolerate that in a modern society. You look out here and you see how dependent we are on natural gas and electricity, how extremely dangerous it is, and yet we don't have records that tell us what's out there. We have no guarantees on our safety.
Anything being changed about the regulation of these for-profit utilities? In other words, whereas the response to a disaster is usually supposed to be, what can we do to prevent it happening again? In fact, in this case, the response is, we don't give a damn if it happens again. We want to make sure that the corporate greed hogs don't have to pay anything anymore to prevent it happening again. These people who don't want to regulate and really seriously inspect the gas lines, they're insane. Do they really think that nothing will blow up under their houses? I mean, I don't get it. The only thing I could think is that these men, and they are all men pretty much, are so dead inside that they really don't care if they or anybody else dies. It's a really, really sick society, and we need much more nurturing energy. And we here are trying to create an alternative just by gathering and talking about the tragedy and the crime that happened.